Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. I still read a lot this week, but full disclosure, I have been down a 911 the TV show rabbit hole. I started on Saturday and I'm 3 seasons deep by the following Saturday. So it's been a week of reading and marathoning a TV show. We're going to kick it off with a bunch of things. Honestly, I've mostly been reading hockey romance this week. All right, so you guys know I've been reading the Pittsburgh Titans series by Sawyer Bennett. I've talked about it a lot over the last month. This week I kind of started by going back to the Arizona Vengeance series. I'm really doing this in the wrong order. So Sawyer Bennett has 3 hockey romance series that are all interconnected. The first one is Cold Fury, the second one is Arizona Vengeance, and the third one is Pittsburgh Titans. And they're all interconnected characters that move between the series. So I went back and I started reading the first 2 books in the Arizona Vengeance series. Should I have just stopped everything and gone back to Cold Fury? Probably. I do have the first book in that series to read, but anyway. I went back to Arizona Vengeance. The first book in that series is Bishop, and so it's a hockey romance story. The Arizona Vengeance are an expansion team, and Bishop plays, I think he's right wing. Anyway, he has this one night stand with a woman at a bar one night, then walks into his new team and walks past an office in the event planning area and sees the woman that he slept with, and it turns out that she's his coach's daughter. So there's a lot of drama around all of that. That culminates kind of in a fake engagement to try and save face for everyone involved, and it was very dramatic. Like, we'll just say that. It was very dramatic, but it was fun. And it was kind of nice to see the Arizona Vengeance because I'd heard so much about that team and some of the players from the Pittsburgh Titans series. I also read Erik, which is the second book in the Arizona Vengeance series. And this one is another one-night stand romance. And now I'm kind of wondering whether the entire Arizona Vengeance series is going to be based on one-night stands. I haven't actually investigated that, but that's kind of where my thinking is. Anyway, it is a one-night stand turned second chance romance between a defenseman and also one of the flight attendants on the team plane. And normally, because I have a real issue with another book that I refuse to read that has this trope, but that's because the author herself was a flight attendant on one of the planes and wrote about the experience, and I just think that's ick. In this case, the one night stand actually happened years earlier. And so when they meet again on the plane, Erik doesn't remember Blue, and she gives him hell for it, which I deeply appreciate. But I also really like the fact that this story does go into some detail around the fact that Blue is the carer for her brother, and Blue's brother has cerebral palsy. I've forgotten the specifics about it because I was listening to it on audiobook, so I didn't have a pen when I was listening to it to write it down. She takes great responsibility for looking after her brother, and part of that is that she's felt some guilt in the past for running away from her family and trying to build her own life and being a little bit wild, and then missing out on supporting her parents and her brother as he was growing up. And so she's kind of taken that on now. And so she's a flight attendant because she earns good money working on private chartered planes, and she's really reluctant to get involved again with Erik because of everything that happened in their past. So this one was a really fun story as well to kind of dive into. I'm really, as I've said before, I'm enjoying Sawyer Bennett's writing. Is it groundbreaking? No. But is it enjoyable? Yes. I'm all on board for enjoyable and easy to read. And apparently now I'm doing all of her books on audio, so there's that too. I also read volume 3 of Sacrificial, Princess and the King of Beasts, which is a manga. I'm still really enjoying this series and kind of seeing all of the new characters that are introduced. And I think in this one we had Ilya, who is a childhood friend of Sarifi and who's, you know, trying to rescue her, even though she doesn't really want to be rescued. That was a fun story, and seeing how all of the other characters interacted with that and how they responded to the potential of losing her. So that was fun. And then I also went and read volume 4. So I'm just, you know, I'm making my way through these very, very slowly, but steadily. Then I read Delayed Penalty by Teagan. I think this came out on the 12th, but I saved it for my birthday so that I could read it on my birthday, and I'm so glad that I did. It is the 3rd book in the Seattle Serpents series. It is Quinn and Hayes' story, and it is a single guardian nanny romance. So Hayes is the sole guardian for his 7-year-old niece. He needs a live-in nanny because it's come about really suddenly. He doesn't have a partner. He's been the total playboy, and now suddenly he's got lots of responsibilities. Quinn is not someone he would have considered to be the right choice to be his nanny. He's had a run-in with her at the local coffee shop where she spilled his coffee, and so he thinks that she's a bit of a flake, and everyone around her doesn't believe that she can stick with something, which was just utterly heartbreaking to read throughout the story. But Hayes is desperate and Quinn gets along really well with Flora, his niece. So they try and make a go of her being the live-in nanny to take care of Flora while he's away on the road. It's very much a forced proximity, found family kind of situation. He's very grumpy. She's sunshine, and like it was fun. And with Teagan Hunter's hockey romance books, there's always kind of this cute element, and in this case it's the group text between all of the hockey players and just the ridiculous silliness that occurs with all of that. It's a little bit over the top, but it's so much fun to read. So I'm glad that I picked that up fairly close to release because I had a great time. I also read The Space Between by Kate Canterbury, which is the second book in the Walsh series. This was the oldest book on my KU TBR, so it was one of the challenges to read for the month. And this is Patrick Walsh's story. So Patrick Walsh is one of the siblings. They own an architecture firm and he is very much into preservation restoration, I think it's called. And at the very start of the book, they're trying to hire an apprentice, and there's Andy. Andy is a woman who knows exactly what she wants. She wants to go into preservation restoration and she wants to work with Patrick. She studied his thesis. She's never met the man, but she just loves his work and she wants to learn from him. There's also an instant attraction between the two of them that they initially refuse to acknowledge because she really wants this job and he is an utter grump and control freak. So this becomes a workplace romance with a hero who is obsessed with her and just falls first and is just trying to figure out his life. Like he literally doesn't know what to do with the fact that he falls in love with this woman who is absolutely no nonsense and stands up to him when very few people actually do that. This series does have content warnings, mostly for the history of emotional and physical abuse by a parent who has since passed away. And there is some estranged family elements in here as well. Also, one of the Walsh siblings has diabetes and doesn't manage it especially well. So there is brief mentions of that in this story, but I think his story is the next one. I'm enjoying the series. It's Kate Canterbury. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to get, and there's drama and family and all sorts of things going on. So would highly recommend. And then I read One Taste by Lena Hendrix, which was a novella that I picked up. I needed a book for the Buzzwordathon that had a sense word in the title. I did have A Taste of Sin by Fiona Z. I really just don't feel like reading it, and so I needed to find something to replace it. So One Taste it was. This is a small town slice of life romance. I think it's a prequel to a series, and it's about Cassie, who is a reporter who has come to this small town because there is some kind of festival and she's reporting on it, and she meets Huck, who is the burly baker of the town. He was not born in town, so he's not considered a local, but everyone loves his bakery, and he is impartial because there is this big rivalry between two of the families that have lived in the town forever. And so because he's impartial, he's nominated as the person to talk to her and lead her around the festival. And they, fall for one another. Like, it's only 73 pages long. It's not groundbreaking, but it was a fun, short, easy read if you like a small town romance. And then the final book that I read this week was Cannon by Sawyer Bennett. This is the 6th book in the Pittsburgh Titans series, and Cannon is the head coach for the Pittsburgh Titans. He's the youngest coach in the league, and he is excellent at his job. He's been really great in the books that he's appeared in. He was the second coach to be picked up by the Titans in this series, and it was great to learn more about him because he's a very even kind of coach. And there was a note at the start from Sawyer Bennett about how she actually interviewed a head coach for an NHL team to find out exactly, what goes on and what kind of work they actually do. So there's some really interesting stuff in here to just sort of flesh out his character, which I really deeply appreciated. Anyway, so Cannon is a coach. He was a player. He played for a while, but when his wife was sick with cancer, he quit his career to become her full-time carer. After her death, which was 9 years ago at the start of this book, he moved into coaching, and he's coached at various levels, and this is his first NHL coaching job. And everyone thinks he's fantastic. They get along great with him. He's really even-tempered. He doesn't lose it when the team loses a game. He very much looks at it as a learning opportunity. And you also see how he delegates his work to his assistant coaches, which is also really cool to see that how that works as well, and how much he recognizes that he is part of a team. Like, he's responsible for all the decisions, but he has a team to help him with managing what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. I love that kind of stuff in a sports romance because you want to see what's going on, right? Anyway, he meets Ava, who is the manager of a local coffee shop that he goes to, and he convinces her to go out on a date. And they end up sleeping together on this date, and she's late to work the next day and she loses her job. And what we find out is that she had followed her boyfriend to Pittsburgh and was working at the same place that her boyfriend was working at. But when he cheated on her and dumped her, he also got her fired from her job. And so she's kind of been living day to day, just trying to make ends meet. And this coffee shop she and this job, she really needed it because she is low on money, and she refuses to let Cannon help her. And Cannon feels absolutely terrible. He even offers to go and use his influence and talk to the owner of the chain of coffee shops. She's like, no, I've got this. I'm going to apply for jobs, da da da. And he's like, well, I still want to go out with you. And she can't believe that. And she also finds out a little bit about his history and his wife, and the anniversary of his wife's death does come up throughout the story, so be aware of that. And we learn that they're married, that he and his wife's marriage wasn't perfect. He knows that, you know, they could have done things differently, but he is also still connected to his wife's mother, so his mother-in-law, who is not dealing with the fact that her daughter is gone. And he's trying to be really even and supportive of her while also struggling to tell her that he's ready to move on with his life. Not necessarily to forget, but to move forward. And so that's a conflict in the story. Mostly we just get to see the inner workings of the team from an outside perspective, because usually we always have the players, but we've got that one step removed. And you also get to see little bits and pieces from the other books from different perspectives. So there's a little bit of overlap, not significant, but just certain moments, like when Baden, who is the goalie coach from the first book, proposed to Sophie. That happened in Drake, but you also get to see it now from the perspective of the coaches and sort of the lead up to that, which was really cool. I'm kind of liking how this series is being pieced together, because there's not so much overlap that you feel like you're constantly hearing the same things again. You're actually getting new information. Also, the female friendships that develop between all of the female partners in the series is great, and the way that they connect, and we get scenes with them being friends and being supportive of one another, which, you know, doesn't always happen in the hockey romance books. So I'm really glad to see those elements coming into it. So I had a really good time with this one. Like, it was a great way to end the reading week this week. So those are all the books that I have read. In the comments, I'd love to know if you've read any of them or if you're planning on picking them up. Otherwise, feel free to leave. Let's just go with a hockey emoji of some kind, because let's face it, that's the majority of what I read this week. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.